Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is Sunday. The last scrimmage of camp just wrapped up yesterday. We're going to get into that, give you the details, who looked good, what side of the ball won. We got a lot of good information yesterday on BuckeyesScoop.com, the only place for the scrimmage report. So if you guys want the deets, you got to jump on there. The message board is fantastic. It's been cranking. It was a late night nugget. Took a little bit to get all of it scrapped together, but we got it together. And our subscribers have been going ballistic over it. Is Devin Brown the guy? There's a lot of analytics reporting that way. Really excited about it. This is going to be a very interesting week for Ryan Day and the staff. Obviously, they're meeting today, grading the film, meeting with the kids for a little bit, a couple hours today just to watch the film, grade everything. So be interesting to see what comes down the pike. Ryan is meeting with the media tomorrow, so it'll be a very interesting press conference, I'm sure. With that being said, as always, thank you guys for joining us. We are exploding in growth on our website. If you guys want the best companion to your Ohio State football experience, join BuckeyesScoop.com. We're on there nonstop. Tons of great inside information. The best expansion information in all of the internet. It's unbelievable how the Oracle has been able to be in front of the pack on a lot of these moves. But if you want the deep down inside stuff for Ohio State football, BuckeyesScoop.com needs to be your home. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe to this channel, and send it to all of your friends who enjoy Ohio State football and college football in general. And also click that little alert bell. You'll get a little alert when we go live, so you'll get to see all of the good stuff that we do. As always, we appreciate our regulars that are on here. And shout out where you guys are from. I saw Portsmouth, Ohio. I love Seattle River. I saw Canton, Massillon, Naples, everywhere across the globe. So I love seeing where you guys are watching from. So always put that down in the comments. And we're going to get right to my good friend, Nevada Buck. Nevada, how are you, my friend?
Well, just to show my dedication to the show, I am broadcasting from the middle of Tropical Storm Hillary, which is the first tropical storm in California, I think in like 100 years or something like that. And people are freaking out. Like people are like, hoarding water and getting extra gas. I laid in extra Twinkies and got a can of some propane and some kibble for the dogs. And we're just going to ride out the storm and broadcast with you guys.
So it's like a hurricane on the West Coast? I didn't know that was possible. I've never heard of that.
No, I know none of us have ever heard it. It's never happened before. So, but it happened and it's happening, and like I said, people are legitimately freaking out, which is very funny to me.
Well, I don't know if that's as big of a freak out as Hurricane Devin Brown, but Devin Brown, I'm telling you, the stock is rising. It is high. I think a lot of people came to this camp thinking this is going to be a coronation for Kyle McCord to be the starter, but from all the accounts I've heard inside the Woody Hayes and have been in practice, Devin's been better than him. And they track, there's analytics, they track passing percentage. He's been a better passer every practice. They chart everything. Nevada, I still, won't be surprised if it goes either way between McCord and Brown. I think Devin Brown is a better player. I think he has higher upside. I think if you want to win the national championship, you need a difference maker quarterback. I think he is the bigger difference maker. What do you make of what you heard from the scrimmage yesterday? You had a huge nugget, a lot of really good information. But what do you make of the quarterback derby? That's what everyone's dying to know right now. A lot of smoke around Devin Brown. What do you make of it so far?
Well, I like you kind of went into this year, or excuse me, into this fall, kind of thinking that Devin Brown was really good. I was one of the early guys on the Devin Brown train, but I really did not expect that he could be possibly named starter for game one. I thought he would take the last snap of the season. I certainly did not think he would take the first snap of the season. And I want to give a shout out to Zach Smith, who had broken some news about a week ago where he called Devin Brown as the starter. And frankly, I didn't think that was possible. Based upon what I knew, based on what I'd seen, I really didn't think that was going to happen. I love Devin Brown. I think he's got a huge upside, but I did not think that he would get the first snap. But now, as I sit here right now, boy, that is a distinct possibility. He has looked better. I mean, little factoids like this, they give grades 1 through 5 in the offseason for workout, and they announced to let everybody know what they're at. 1 being worst, 5 being best. McCord got a 5, which is great, awesome. Devin was named MVP of the workout season. And the team went nuts when they announced that. And that's the kind of stuff where you look for how is the team responding to a guy like that. And that he's just got it, and they know it. I think the other players know it. And as you said, he's been outperforming him. He's been consistently doing a lot of things better. And I think it's enough to maybe nudge him ahead of McCord in this thing where I would have thought that was unthinkable 2 weeks ago. I think it's a distinct possibility, and we could see some movement on that as early as this week. But yeah, we broke it all down. Had a great scrimmage nugget, had a great breakdown. So if you really want to know what's really going on the inside of Ohio State football, because you're not going to get this anywhere else. There's no other site on the internet. All the other sites, all they do is they read our stuff and they publish some sort of watered down version of it. But just check when it's in. You know what you're getting, the goods. And we had a great breakdown on this, and I think we got this one. I think we got this one nailed, and I think it's a great story. The quarterback derby at Ohio State's a great story, and it's certainly playing out in real time for our subscribers on Buckeye Scoop.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. Again, I think that having, two relatively new tackles, having a new center, I think mobility is a huge help. Again, I think if you're a statue back there like Kyle McCord is, it's a lot tougher. Again, it's not going to really show it the first 3 weeks. We're not going to be playing the level of competition we'll see at South Bend, but South Bend it'll be a challenge. And South Bend, Notre Dame's got a real quarterback. The kid from Wake Forest is really good. So, you're going to need a difference maker at the quarterback position. And I think Devin Brown has shown in camp that he's that guy. He's got the accuracy. The thing that a lot of people, I think, banked on was the fact that Devin Brown is obviously more mobile than Kyle McCord. He's a better athlete. Again, we're showing his high school highlights because you can see some of the things that he could do, some of the concepts he's good at. You can see him run the read option. You can see his escapability. Again, he's playing with, I don't think, any Division I lineman on his team. So it's actually kind of nice because you see the pocket break down multiple times during this film, and you see him keep his feet set, move the pocket, escape, make a throw downfield. Some of the stuff that he's probably going to have to do this year because, frankly, our line is going to be learning on the job. And we thankfully have 3 games early on where, they can go against lesser opponents and kind of get their feet wet and get some experience before we head to Notre Dame. But I think that the thing that's been not shocking, but something that's been eye-opening to the coaching staff is that he's been the more accurate passer. He's been more accurate than Kyle McCord, which was, something going into, you obviously assume that McCord, extra year in the offense, 5-star guy, would be more accurate. Obviously, went to high school with Marvin, who's the number 1 receiver, maybe the number 1 player in the country. And now the guy who's the athlete is actually a better thrower, and he's taking better care of the ball, which is something, when you don't have CJ Stroud's, deadly accuracy and Paris and DeWan out at tackle, you need the guys, they're going to take care of the ball. You cannot turn it over. That's going to be something that's going to be harped on early in the season is take care of the football because, as we're finding our way as an offense and the O-line is coming together, like you can't have sudden change. You can't turn the ball over. You can't be reckless with the ball. And Devin's been better at taking care of the ball. So it all adds up. Again, I am a huge advocate of having a quarterback that can get out and move a little bit. Again, there's nothing more backbreaking than converting a 3rd and medium or a 3rd and long where everything's covered and the pass rush is good and he steps up and runs for it and slides and doesn't take abuse. So, I think it's going to be really exciting. Ryan Day has his press conference tomorrow. I've sat in these Sunday meetings the day after the scrimmage where you're grading the scrimmage and going through everything and kind of making decisions as to who, in pencil or in ink is going to be your starters across the board. And, that quarterback one, if I'm Ryan, I'm probably delaying it until kickoff of Indiana and not really. There's no reason to name it. You got 2 more weeks to compete. Really, 1 more week. You got this +1 week where you're going to start your Indiana prep. But you can still do some scrimmage work. Jim Tressel used to have a great philosophy. When we did open with a big time opponent week 1 or 2, he would kind of just carry training camp into the season, and we'd keep practicing like it was in training camp. Like when we would open with Youngstown State or Miami of Ohio, it was like he would keep the foot on the gas and just keep grinding us because it made us better. Scrimmaging each other because when you're opening with Cincinnati or Marshall or whoever, you're not going to get as high level look. Now, week 2 in 05, when we had to play Texas, that's a little bit different because you're playing, the number 1 team in the country, number 2 team in the country, whatever they were at that time. But, it's going to be interesting how we have, kind of 3 weeks of Indiana will be a decent challenge. It's a road game. I don't think they're up to stuff compared to where they used to be, but after that, you've got Youngstown State, Western Kentucky. Those will be 2 45, 50-point spread type games. And, these guys can just keep the gas on and see how the O-line shakes out and keep the quarterback competition going. And honestly, I could see us seeing both these guys against Indiana, seeing them both against, Youngstown State, and both against, Western Kentucky. I mean, we better see them both against Youngstown State, and hopefully Ryan lets them run the offense. Nevada, with the O-line pretty much being set, with Jimmy Simmons winning left tackle, I think that's going to be something to watch. He's never started at left tackle in a game. He's been a right tackle at San Diego State. He admitted he never really played left tackle ever, so that'll be something the Bears are watching. He's obviously a really good athlete. I don't think his playing strength is where it needs to be, but he's kind of all we got. What do you make of the O-line, the battles? I know you're obviously a big, we haven't had a bad O-line in a long time, and we really haven't. And the way the schedule sets up, I think it's really beneficial for these guys. But what do you make of the O-line in coordination with the quarterback derby?
Well, let me talk about the quarterback thing. We'll just put a little finishing point on my thought on the quarterback derby. No matter what happens here in the fall, no matter what's happened in fall camp, the reality is the fall camp is non-contact. It's, brush the quarterback, plays dead, or brush the quarterback, plays extended, or whatever it is. And so you're not really going to know until the real bullets start flying when you're playing against real games. So no matter how good Devin Brown has been or not been, or Kyle McCord, all that matters is gameplay. So anything you say is subject to change when they get out there when the bullets are flying. So all we can do is report on what's going on right now. But I want to offer the big asterisk on this thing in terms of saying it's subject to change based upon how things go in games, because game is different than practice, and practice performance does not guarantee future game excellence. And that is just something, that's one of Granny Nevada's number one rules. Always remember that. So anything that we say about this in terms of practice, we have to see in the game, have to see in the field. And I think that's why Ryan Day's being very cagey about it, because you just don't know. Now, let's take that to the offensive line. I'm going to give a hot take right now. I'm not completely sold on Jimmy Simmons. Now, Jimmy Simmons could go out there and be the next Orlando Pace, the next Burt Carton, just on the left side. And I don't know, man. I'm more of the I like Zen Mikulski. I like George Fitzpatrick. I like some of the backups as much as I like Jimmy. But I know they think Jimmy can do it. I know that they're going to give a shot out there, and I hope he's absolutely fantastic and lights out, because if he is, then we're not going to have problems. Because Josh Fryer can handle the right side, or Luke Montgomery can handle the right side, or whomever can handle the right side. Obviously, on the interior, we're set, and I think Carson Newsom's going to be terrific at center. But that left tackle position, your entire offensive line can look bad if that left side looks bad, and I just want to keep an eye on that. We just got to continue to keep an eye on that, because I know a lot of people are writing that position in ink and just saying, okay, we found our tackle. Here's the thing. I'm not quite there yet. I want to see a little bit more. I want to get a little bit more information. But I think that's something that bears keeping a close eye on. I think we have dudes behind him that could push, and I'm not sure the story on that position has been written yet.
Well, and I think that, the first guy to agree with you would be Justin Fry, because, for the first half of camp, they had Josh Fryer over there. So I don't think they're sold on anything. If they're flipping tackles midway through camp after Josh took all the reps at left tackle in the spring and through the first, 7, 8, 10 practices where he was over there for the fall, and then they flipped him. I think that the coaching staff is still trying to figure it out, because, the thing about Jimmy Simmons, again, if we're just using pure numbers, took a lot of penalties last year, a lot of pre-snap penalties. I don't know what the whole, but it was like 17 plus penalties, which that's a lot of penalties in 12, 13 games. That's almost a penalty a game, which is, I was not Orlando Pace by any stretch, but I didn't have 17 in my entire football career. And I played 100 games across my, high school, college, whatever. Never had that many penalties. But, I think that his athleticism is something to note. But it'll be interesting to see how his footwork looks, man. Because I'm telling you, that's the tough part, is when you switch hands, switch your stance, switch your vertical set. He's got the speed to get back there. I know that his pass set is very fluid. He gets back there quick. A deeper set than I think a lot of the guys are accustomed to. And but it's going to come down to how well he can hold that edge at left tackle. And again, the biggest thing that I think has changed since Ryan took over, and maybe even Urban, is that these quarterbacks are never live until they get into the regular season, into a real game. Which again, I'm fine with that. But back in the olden days with Tress, man, when you were a young quarterback, like my freshman year when I was a true freshman, he made Justin Zwick and Troy Smith both live. He didn't make Krenzel and McMullen, the older guys, the seniors, live, but the freshmen, the redshirt freshmen, are both live. So, and again, there's good and bad to that. I mean, it's good, that the quarterbacks can take a hit and you can kind of evaluate them after they've been smoked. But the other good thing is, like, when I'm playing left tackle as a freshman and I got Troy and Justin behind me, dude, if I get beat, those guys are getting smoked. So, I mean, it gives the extra anxiety to the offensive lineman that, hey, if you screw up, your boy's getting smoked. So it's something that these guys really haven't had to deal with. They won't really deal with it until the game starts. But it's always interesting to see how the quarterbacks change if they've been hit once or twice or 10 times or whatever, because that changes guys. There's some guys that they get hit a couple times, man, and they go into their shell and they're just not the same guy. They're not as freelancing and free flowing and happy go lucky as they are when they've got the black jersey on. So that'll be fascinating to watch. Again, I think that something that has been said, to me from people that have been at practice is that, look, there's been times where, Kyle, he hangs onto that ball and he's standing there, and if it was a real game, he had gotten absolutely killed. So, again, that's something that you got to evaluate because, Devin is a pass rusher's nightmare because he when it gets hot in there, man, he's motoring and he's gone, and he makes a lot of plays on the run, which is something that I think for this offense will be a pleasant change, something that I think, because again, all I care about, and CJ Stroud is a fantastic quarterback, obviously second overall pick. He's going to start this year in the NFL, probably have a great NFL career. But I just always look at what is the hardest thing to defend. And to me, it's a quarterback that can throw it and he can throw on the move with accuracy. And he's not scared to scramble and go take 7 or 8 yards and make it 2nd and 2. If you stay ahead of the chains, it's the biggest backbreaker in the world. And there's nothing more frustrating. And I love when defensive linemen are frustrated when they're this close to getting a sack and then they miss it because the guy takes off. He's got that sense and he can boogie and go, turn it into a nice 8 or 9 yard gain or convert on a first down. Defensively, Nevada, again, the thing you guys got to realize about these scrimmages is that, a lot of the best players get held for, that's something that Ryan does. He takes care of the guys that are in the 1,000 rep club or whatever it's called, so the Cade Stovers, the Tommy Eichenbergs, the Marvin and Mecca, those guys don't do much during these things. So you're going to get a big dose of CJ Hicks, Cody Simon, Guy Scott, like all these guys that are, they might be older or the same age, but they don't have the reps or the experience or the career start. So those guys are the guys that really get to shine in these things. Nevada, who are some other guys that you heard about yesterday that had good scrimmages? Again, I think that, they hold JT Tuimoloau, they hold Jack Sawyer out. So it's kind of KJ time. It's Kenyatta Jackson time. It's Caden Curry time. I've heard Caden has looked really good. He's lost weight. First step is back. Spin move is still there. When they're not sliding that way, he loves to hit that spin move. They tried him at D tackle, which I didn't think would fix. He's about 260. He'd probably get rocked in there. But who are some other names that you've heard for yesterday and maybe the last few days of practice that have kind of stepped up their game?
Well, a couple of guys, Mitchell Melton and Cody Simon are guys that, not, I mean, again, not that people don't know them, but they're not guys that you really, typically think of when you're thinking about this Ohio State defense and who are going to be the playmakers. And Mitchell's had a terrific fall camp and really been good as late and really been making the most of other guys being out and, taking those reps and being very productive when he's in there. And Cody, what I feel about Cody. I've always thought Cody could be the next great linebacker at Ohio State. Has had some devastating injuries, fought back through them, now in a loaded room behind some really talented players and, in Steele and Tommy, and then you've got the young guns and CJ and Sonny and, and he's still in there balling and he will make plays this year. And when he comes in, you'll know he's in there because he's a heck of a ball player, incredibly intuitive, rapid to the ball, and finally 100% healthy for the first time in a while, and really kind of looking like the Cody Simon of old. So I expect great things out of him, even when he's getting limited snaps.
Yeah, I mean, Cody Simon's an absolute freak. So he's a 4.5 guy. He can run. Obviously, 2 years ago, I don't know if it was 2 labrums or what it was, but he had major shoulder surgery on both shoulders. So, I mean, it's impossible to play linebacker with no shoulders. You can't do your job. So he's rounding back into form. I would love to see a heavier rotation, especially early in the year when it's hot. Get these guys some quality reps, some true competitive snaps where the game is still a game. It's not 42-0. When get him in for Tommy and still get him and CJ in, rotate those guys in. Because again, it's a long season. It is a very hard season. The Big Ten is going to be brutal this year. So I think if there's ever time to rotate our guys a little bit more on defense, this is the time. Because, when we go to Notre Dame and to Camp Randall and we play Penn State and then we got the night game against Michigan State, then we got to go to Ann Arbor, like that is a devastatingly tough schedule. And, these guys, you got to keep them as fresh as can be. I think it'll be exciting to see what CJ can do. Mitchell Melton's a guy who's really intriguing because he's really come on. And I'm telling you, any amount of pass rush juice we can squeeze out of these guys is needed. KJ is a guy who's made a lot of splash plays, a lot of battles against our backup tackles. He's a guy that, he's big splash play, big sack fumble, big play like that. And then he kind of, the motor can turn down a little bit and mess up a couple of plays. So, if he can ratchet his consistency up, then he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the next great one. He'll be, and already if JT takes off next year and potentially Jack takes off next year, you need him and Caden to be ready to go and start. So I think those guys need to get more into the mix. I think those guys need to provide some juice off the bench. Because again, I think that the biggest thing that this defense needs to improve on is just affecting the quarterback. We got to go from 30 sacks to 50 sacks to go be able to affect JJ McCarthy in Ann Arbor, the kid in Wisconsin. You got to be able to get after these guys. And I think that, that coordinates well with the back end because, Denzel and Dave Sigmanosin, Jordan Hancock, those guys have been lights out. It's been unbelievable how much better they've been. They're more confident. That room was a room that was beat down last year. There was a lot of negative energy around that room last year. Completely changed. And I don't know if it's injecting Davison in there or what really changed because, you still got Tim Walton in there. So he's still coaching the corners. He obviously got promoted to kind of run the whole secondary with Perry being the safeties guy. But to me, that group has probably had as big of a turnaround as I've heard from the people I've talked to nowadays. They are buzzing, a lot of confidence. And again, they got to go see, every day those guys, that group steps on the field, man, they got to go see Marvin, Emeka, Jaden Ballard, Carnell Tate, Ennis. So, you better eat your Wheaties before you go out there against those receivers because if you don't, those guys could make you look terrible. And that'd be, a pretty bloody film session to watch if those receivers start to get loose on you. Nevada, talk a little bit about the back end and how the back end of the defense has really made a nice jump. And something that I'm excited about, these guys they're getting after the receivers, they're turning the ball over, they're getting the picks that we need to get. Talk a little bit about what those guys have done this camp, and what do you look forward to, especially in the first 3-4 games of the season?
Well, talked about him before, but cannot emphasize enough. This is a guy who does not get nearly enough run on Twitter, on the message boards, on anything, but is Jihad Carter. Jihad Carter is a player, and he has really been a guy that's really solidified things there in the defensive backfield. Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum about Davison, about how good he is, but getting Davison and getting Jihad, adding two starters like that has been huge. And then Jordan Hancock has stepped up and been the Jordan Hancock we thought he would be. So, it's a combination of things where you're getting, multiple inputs from outside of the program, guys growing up from inside the program. And the difference is, an Ohio State defense that just wasn't very talented last year. You had 5 guys NFL draft eligible that all went undrafted. And I don't know that's ever happened in the history of Ohio State football before, where 5 guys that weren't just occasional players. Those 5 starters that were gobbling up big minutes went undrafted in the NFL, and that's not going to happen this year. I think the athleticism and the just the overall team speed and the velocity which the OSU defense plays is markedly better than it was last year, and I think it's going to play out in the field. And I think people are going to watch the defense, and it's going to look like a completely different unit out there. And that's a good thing. The defense is going to have to carry us in 2023, and I think they're up for the task.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I'm excited to see that unit. I know that those guys are beat down, bludgeoned. I think the tables are going to turn this year. I think that the defense is going to win us games this year. You need to pack your running game and your defense when you go on the road to some of these hostile environments to really set the tone. And I think we get some guys that they're hungry. They can't wait to get to this first game just because they've been beat down so bad for the Michigan game and the Georgia game and the total points, total yards, whatever. And now the page is turned. Really excited for guys like Tommy, a kid that I absolutely love. Guys like Mike Hall, he's got a lot of motivation. There's some guys that really want to make their mark and potentially be 3-and-out type guys. And it really starts when we go to Bloomington in 2 weeks. We're gonna talk defense. We're gonna throw on some Edric Houston film. Nevada, he's committing this week. This is going to be one that I think a lot of people are excited about. What are your thoughts on Edric Houston? I think he's absolutely fantastic. Might be the best player in the entire country other than J.J. Smith. How are you feeling about this one?
Well, let me just say 2023 has been the greatest year in the world in terms of the recruit nicks and recruiting gurus just getting put on their head on this stuff because it's the game has changed, man. So anytime you see a crystal ball future cast, unless it's Hayes Fawcett and it's 10 minutes before the announcement, don't put a lot of stock in it. What I'll say is I'm going to give it the kiss of death. This is like the old mafia kiss of death when Michael Corleone gives you a kiss on both cheeks. But Ohio State feels really good about where they are with Houston, which probably means they're not getting him. But I'm still riding with they're getting him. It's going to be a big get for Ohio State. Things go through, and that there's wild rejoicing throughout Ohio State land coming up on this Tuesday as we land a guy that could be the number one player in the country.
Yeah, I love his game. I think he's a dominator up front. He's a guy that is gonna have to play next year. If we lose Jack and JT, like this guy's gonna play next year. I mean, he's gonna be playing starting at end or playing a lot of minutes at end. Committing on Tuesday, the 22nd. So this is coming up in 2 days. So this thing's gonna get cranked up quick. And like I said, I'm really excited to see this kid. I think he's got major upside. It's interesting because he plays for Buford, which is the home of the Ohio State Heartbreakers with Dylan Raiola and KJ Bolden both being there. So hopefully this one will go a little bit different, a little bit better. Buford kids go wherever they want. It's not a pipeline to Georgia. Obviously, they got Dylan, but he wasn't there when he committed to Georgia. So I think this kid's got all the tools, man. And I love these dominant guys from the South. This kid, again, he plays both ways. So you see him pancaking guys at tight end here, which I love that a kid is unselfish enough to block on offense. Because a lot of these guys, they just want to play defense because they can get statistics and get sacks, they can get tackles for losses. But when a guy is selfless enough to show up and block at the point of attack as a blocking tight end, it shows me a lot about his character. And again, he gets upfield in a hurry, and he's a dominator. And this is a guy that if we get him and we can hang on to him, God bless it, because it's been a wild ride at defensive end the last 2 seasons. We've left on a lot of really good players. I think some is NL related, some is whatever related, but this is a kid. We get him. You get him and Justin Scott, man. You're gonna have an amazing a 10-star 1-2 punch on the defensive line. So again, I think everything's trending towards us getting this kid, and now you just got to hang on for dear life to December. And that's the thing is you get a commitment in August. That's great for like 35 seconds, and then Kirby Smart's going to be calling him, and Nick Saban's going to be calling him, and everyone's going to be calling him. So you just got to hang on to him through December and stay in his hip pocket. But I love this kid's game. I love his explosion. He gets to the quarterback and delivers a wall up. He plays here. He is coming down the line. Again, pursuit. Again, he's got all the tools. I love watching his tape. I've watched this tape probably 50 times. So, it's kind of old hat at this point, but the pursuit, the hands, again, and Buford is as good as any program in the country. They could play Mater Dei or Bishop Gorman or any of the powerhouse, Bosco, any of the powerhouses across the country, and they could be really competitive. So yeah, I'm excited about this one. We'll see how it goes on Tuesday. See how this thing is rolling. Well, Nevada, we had camp is broken. The kids, it was interesting. These kids got Friday off, which I've never heard of. They had about a 2-hour film session, and then they were off the rest of the day. They didn't have a pre-practice. They didn't have a light practice. They had no practice. Then they had a nice hard scrimmage Saturday, and they were done early. Done by about 1. Thursday night they went out to dinner. So the camp has been a little more NFL-esque than I think I can ever remember. Today they just had light film, scrimmage review, nothing physical on the field, and then they're back at it tomorrow. What do you make of it? Camp, again, it's not what it used to be because there's 2 days are now banned. The days are still long, but it's, they get like a nice 3-hour break in the middle of the day where they can go do whatever they want, which is something that was unheard of back in the olden days where you're basically sequestered inside the hotel and inside the Woody Hayes for the duration of camp. Now these guys literally get a break where they can go get in their cars and they can go back to their apartments, they can go back to their houses, they can go see their girlfriend, they can go eat Chipotle. All the creature comforts that never used to exist in camp are now very prevalent. So what do you make of that? And do you think it'll benefit the team? Because I think it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that works out. Because it's really more of an NFL style approach.
Well, look, I think this is all going to be judged retrospectively. If Ohio State comes out and rolls and plays well and avoids injury and looks sharp coming out, then we're going to be like, oh, wow, Ryan Day's got the secret formula and, this is great and this is how we need to do it. And if the guys come out and we look a little flat, we're not playing, very crisply, then we're going to complain about how loose the camp was. But make no mistake, this has been a looser camp. This has been different. We've talked about this, throughout the fall season. I'll say it. It's been unlike any camp that I can remember in my time covering this one. This might be the loosest camp that I've seen. That might be great. Do I think Ryan Day's got a handle on his team? I do. Do I think Ryan Day's grown up as a head coach? Absolutely. We have to remember when Ryan Day took over as head coach, he'd never been a head coach before. So the idea that he would be a perfect finished product, a guy like Urban Meyer who had been, at multiple different stops, national championships, undefeated seasons, or Jim Tressel who'd been a impresario down at Youngstown State and, done all that. I mean, Ryan Day had never done this before. So he's still figuring out his way, but he's a much better coach now than he was when he first started. And I think he's got a better handle on his team. I think he found himself in the run-up to the Georgia game, and I think this is who he wants to be and how he wants to coach. And we're going to get a chance to see in 13 days when the product's on the field. But it's been a loose camp. The guys seem to be at a good spot. We've not been able to avoid the injury bug, knock on wood. I've tried to talk that one out of existence. And like I said, all we've got left is the quarterback derby to determine, and that'll be another kind of indication of where Ryan Day is as a head coach. I think it's going to take a very secure head coach to bypass a guy who's been here an extra time like McCord is if he goes to Brown. If Devin Brown beats out Kyle McCord, then Devin Brown is clearly better. And Ryan Day is clearly saying that because, from McCord's standpoint, he could check out. If McCord gets a start and then you take him out and put Brown in, then he feels like he at least had the chance. If he doesn't even get the chance and Brown takes the reins, then McCord may mentally check out, and you may be in a situation where it's Lincoln Keenel's time if things start going awry. So I think Dave's got to handle this carefully, and I think he's done a great job thus far.
Yeah, with the transfer portal, it's kind of like defusing a bomb now. You got to be very careful how you do this because you do not want to have to burn Lincoln's red shirt. He can play in 4 games, but you don't want to have to burn him because you have a guy that can scramble and he takes a shot, and all of a sudden you're down to a true freshman with the national championship on the line for the season, throwing to guys like Marvin and Emeka, and there's just a lot on the line with this decision. And the thing about this camp is Ryan Day has worked these guys very hard. So when we say they get a little bit more time off and the extra, I mean, he's worked. These guys have taken more for single practices. Now again, there's no more 2-a-days. For single practices, these guys have gotten a ton of reps because, again, there's a lot of positions up for grabs, especially on the offensive line, quarterback. So Ryan and Corey Dennis and all these guys wanted a big pool of data. So, Brian Hartline, the offensive coordinator, so that when they make this quarterback decision, this isn't like they're just throwing a dart at a board. This is like, look, here's your, a couple hundred reps from practice. Here's your grades. Here's your completion percentage. Because they grade everything, and it's all compiled. Here's your cumulative score. Okay. And then they also kind of curve it based on, okay, well, this is what you did against the first team defense. This is what you did against the second team defense. This is what you did in the first scrimmage. This is what you did in the second scrimmage. So there's, it's a huge formula to figure it out. It's not like you're just winging it. It's not like it's just the eye test. They wanted to get a lot of reps in. They wanted data, for the spots, and on the O line too, because they grade every tackle rep, Who are you going against? Because there could be a guy that grades out as a 95% or a 90%, but he's blocking, a walk-on, versus a guy who grades out at 70%, he's blocking JT Tuimoloau. So, not all grades are created equal. Not everything's created equal, but that's why they're called coach, because they compile all this. They have full hard drives of each kid's every rep. And, when kids are wondering, well, why am I the third team guy instead of the second team guy? Or why was I not named the starter? Or why did I get demoted? Or whatever. These guys are really good at compiling data, and they always have that ammunition ready. Because it's not just for the kids, because some of the dads show up and they're like, well, why isn't my boy playing? And then they pull out the file, man, and it's like, well, he was late 5 times. Hey, we caught him sneaking out of the Hyatt Place hotel one night. He's missed 6 study tables. Here's the 17 plays where he loafed, and here's his 5 fumbles in practice. They have all the ammunition ready to go. So if you're a parent, you're going to go in and visit Ryan Day or any of these coaches, man, like, you better have your mind right, and you better hope your kid's not fibbing to you, because that's like one of the things that I've seen it happen. I've seen the dads walk in all gung-ho ready to go, and then they just get absolutely they get toll booth like in Godfather 1. They roll up to the toll booth and just get machine gunned by the coaches. So it's just one of those things where it's a calculated risk. Well, any final thoughts about it? Camp is broken. I'm like you. I'm feeling nice and fresh, ready to go. About 13 days away from the foot hitting the ball. Week 0 football coming up this week in college football. Any final thoughts as we wrap this thing up?
Well, yeah, I just said one of my best sources, talking to me, we're talking about the Devin Brown, Cal McCord situation. And, he pointed out to me, he's like, look, it's all about what type of quarterback that Day wants out there. And he goes, people think that Day's like this, drop back traditional type of guy. He goes, but look at the last 4 quarterbacks that he's recruited. And he's like, it's Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, Aaron Noland, and Tavian St. Clair. And he goes, none of those guys are like just straight drop back guys. Those are guys. I'm not saying they're run, but you watch Aaron Noland on Friday night. That's what we're talking about. A guy can be a little creative, can move around in the pocket, do things, make plays on the move. Won a big game against Carrollton, and I think that's the type of quarterback he wants. I think that's the type of quarterback he realizes he needs to win in the modern college game. And I think that's going to be ultimately why he goes to Devin Brown. I think it's an open question right now still, who takes that first snap against Indiana. Boy, I would have thought it was 60-40 or 70-30 McCord. Now I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want to make a pick right now because Devin's been coming on like a hurricane, been really responsible with the ball and really moving around. Has a great feel, a real good pocket presence when he's out there. So quarterback derby coming down last 13 days. We'll have the front row seat for you there at Buckeye Scoop, and appreciate everybody's support.
Yeah, and it's not some cosmic accident that Vegas all of a sudden dropped Devin Brown's Heisman odds. You could have got him for, it was like minus 8,000, and it just jumped way up. So, again, Vegas and the Sharps know, and they usually have really good sources as well. So, it's going to be really fascinating to see how this thing shakes out. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in as always. You're going to jump right back on those message boards on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys do not have the best companion for college football, join BuckeyeScoop.com. Our message board is absolutely scorching hot right now. Non-stop activity, a lot of good stuff coming in, a lot of new information coming in. So if you guys are huge Ohio State fans, you want to be a part of the best community, join BuckeyeScoop.com. We would love to have you. So that being said, if you guys enjoyed this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell. I see all my regulars in here. I appreciate you guys. As always, I see you, Mello. I see you, Brass Tax. I see you, Paul. Welcome. As always, thank you guys for being in here. Click that like button on your way out the door. We appreciate you guys so much. And make sure you shout out where you guys are watching from. Love seeing all my Ohio people, all my Florida people, California, Texas, Georgia. You guys are all over the place, all over the world. Love seeing where you guys are watching from. That being said, thank you so much, Scoop family. And thank you, Buckeye Nation. We are about 13 days away from kickoff. That foot's about to hit the ball, and we're about to rock and roll. Thank you so much. Go Bucks.